While the world's attention is fixed on the U.S. Israel war with Iran, a second front just cracked open, and it's one most people missed. Saudi Arabia and Yemen's Houthi rebels just broke a 4-year truce, trading airstrikes for the first time in years. And in the background, China is quietly propping up Iran with technology the U.S. says is helping kill American troops. Here's what's actually happening. To understand this week's news, rewind to February 28, 2026. The U.S. and Israel launched a wave of coordinated airstrikes on Iran, and one of those strikes killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, along with several family members. Iran declared 40 days of mourning. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has since taken over as supreme leader. That single event reshaped the region and reignited old rivalries that had been dormant for years, including the one between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis in Yemen. For 4 years, Saudi Arabia and the Iran-backed Houthis had held an unofficial truce. That ended on July 13, 2026. The Houthis tried to fly a delegation to Tehran for Khamenei's funeral on an Iranian aircraft, a direct flight between Tehran and Houthi-controlled Sana'a that broke Saudi Arabia's long-standing air blockade. When that plane tried to return, Saudi Arabia struck Sana'a International Airport to stop it from landing. It didn't work. The plane diverted and landed at another Houthi-held airport anyway. Hours later, the Houthis retaliated, firing missiles and drones at Abha International Airport in southern Saudi Arabia. No casualties were reported, but it was the most serious clash between the two sides in years. The Houthis also claimed they shot down a Saudi reconnaissance aircraft over central Yemen. And it hasn't stopped. As of today, July 24, 2026, Saudi strikes reportedly hit Yemen's Red Sea port city of Hodeidah, after the Houthis announced they'd impose a naval blockade on Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea, explicitly opening what they called a new front against the United States in the broader Iran war.
To be clear on one important point, this is Saudi Arabia versus the Houthis, Iran's proxy force in Yemen, not a direct strike on Iran's Revolutionary Guard. But analysts are cautious about calling this a full return to war just yet. The assessment from risk analysts is that a limited tit-for-tat cycle is more likely right now than a full-scale reignition of Yemen's civil war, though the risk of that is clearly rising. Now, here's the part that should worry Washington more. China isn't sending troops, and it hasn't declared itself Iran's ally. Officially, Beijing calls itself neutral, and it's pushed diplomatic proposals for a ceasefire and safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. But U.S. intelligence and reporting tell a different story underneath that neutral posture. Chinese companies have allegedly supplied Iran with dual-use missile parts, radar systems, and navigation technology. China's Beidou satellite system reportedly helped Iran direct attacks across the region. The Financial Times even reported that Iran's Revolutionary Guard secretly acquired a high-resolution Chinese reconnaissance satellite that helped monitor targets for strikes. It gets more serious. In May of 2026, NBC News reported that a U.S. F-15E fighter jet shot down over the region was likely brought down by a Chinese-made shoulder-launched missile, according to anonymous U.S. officials. The U.S. has already sanctioned a Chinese refinery for processing Iranian oil, and 3 Chinese firms accused of feeding Iran geospatial intelligence. China's foreign ministry has denied the specific claims about satellites and missile shipments, but Beijing has also directly told its own companies and banks to ignore U.S. sanctions altogether. So put the picture together. America and Israel decapitated Iran's leadership in February. Iran's regional proxy network, the Houthis, is now clashing with Saudi Arabia for the first time in years, and China is helping keep Iran's military functioning through technology transfers, all while publicly staying out of the fight. None of these 3 threads are the same war, but they're not separate either. They're the same conflict wearing 3 different faces. That's where things stand as of July 24th. This is a fast-moving story. Subscribe to the narrative so you don't miss the next update, and drop a comment. Do you think Saudi Arabia gets pulled back into a full war in Yemen? Let's talk about it below.